but the FBI took the hard drives with my bass course and I never saw it. That's a true story. It's crazy.
Oi pessoal, meu nome é Alexandre Piazza e nesse canal te ajudo a tocar contrabaixo acústico melhor. Hoje a gente vai conversar com Jason Heath, ele é contrabaixista e youtuber e a gente vai conversar sobre contrabaixo e produção de conteúdo para as redes sociais. Thank you, Jason, for being here. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. So I think you are the most famous double bassist slash YouTuber in the world. But in case someone doesn't know you or who are you, could you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. And it's a pleasure to be here. And I have a tendency to speak way too fast. So I'm going to try to also, and I've had a lot of coffee today, but I'm going to try to stay nice and calm. I'm a content creator in the double bass world. So I make YouTube videos. I've been doing that for about 5 years, but I've been doing a podcast for almost 20 years. And we're over 1,000 episodes. I think I've chatted with just people on every continent except Antarctica. No Antarctica yet, but soon. And we also run a newsletter and sell double bass music from creators all over the world. But first and foremost, I'm a double bass player and teacher, and so everything I do comes from that, the love of the bass. There's my bass back there, and I just feel so lucky to be able to talk about the bass with other people that care about the bass, and makes me smile every day.
And thank you also for being like an inspiration to me. Because I started like I was seeing what you are doing on YouTube, and it was like a small light. Yeah, maybe I will do that also, but in Portuguese. And thank you. You know what
Well,
I mean? Like,
yes, I do. And thank you for doing what you're doing. It makes me so happy to see people exploring similar ideas, but reaching a whole different audience in different languages. And I think that's so valuable. And it's so fun to watch your channel grow. And I really love the way the look and the topics. And I'm working on my Portuguese. It's very slow, but give me time. I will understand more soon.
I have a question about the origin of the podcast. You said you have the name is Contrabass Conversations, and my questions are how it improved, how did you start it? Because you have more than 1,000 episodes.
Yes, I do. And it's a long time. And I would have called it something with fewer syllables. I wanted to call it Talk Bass, but someone had already taken that name. So I chose the much longer Contrabass Conversations. But it's been a great personal development tool for me. It's something I started doing when I stopped taking orchestra auditions. I was for many years auditioning for professional orchestras, and I got some part-time jobs, and I was looking for full-time and got close. And then finally, after several years, I said, I'm done. No more auditions. And I had all this time because I wasn't practicing all these excerpts. And so I had gotten excited about podcasts, and I listened to a lot of tech podcasts. This was 2006 or so. I started to listen to podcasts, and I thought I should start a double bass podcast. So I went into Apple Podcasts and I typed double bass, and there was already a double bass podcast. But he had only done 6 or 8 episodes, and then he stopped doing the podcast. And so I thought, oh, maybe I'll start. And I was planning it. And then January 1st, 2007, I did my first episode. It was just me talking to myself, not very exciting. And I did a few more by myself, and then I realized I should talk to other people. And by the fourth episode, I had a guest. And people started recommending other guests, and before I knew it, it was a regular thing, like going to the gym or practicing the bass. I would talk to people, and it's a great personal development tool because it's almost like getting a free lesson with people. You sit down and talk about interesting topics. And it's something I would like to do anyway. Well, I would always want to sit down and chat about music and bass and touring and life and all sorts of topics. And this is just a convenient way to do it and then put it out in the world. So I have learned so much doing it. And I would encourage anybody to do a podcast. It takes some time, but it's great for you, especially if you edit yourself, because you'll get really sick of hearing yourself say and ah. And it really cleaned up my speaking a lot and made me present a little more clearly, which YouTube can also do. But the podcast has been a really lovely part of my life for almost 20 years at this point. It's amazing.
I think it's very interesting that you bring people from various parts of the double bass community, like jazz bassists or orchestra, and you talk about bow speed or bow technique, or what strings are the better, or is or double bass education is very
Broad, I think, is the word.
broad. Yeah, yeah. And I have another question. Is how do you change or not change, because you are already recording the podcast, but how do you started YouTube?
Yes. Well, I had a YouTube channel for years, but I never did anything with it. I called it my garbage fire but I did do one thing that got very popular early on, or pretty popular early on. My very first podcast guest is a wonderful double bass player and educator named Andy Anderson. And this was in 2007. And Andy said, we should do a series of videos about double bass technique, which you and I now do all the time. But in 2007, there weren't any on YouTube, really. So I got out my little point and shoot Canon camera. It was a 2 megapixel camera with the little pinhole microphone, and I recorded these videos. You could hear all this hiss in the background, and this was at a time when YouTube would only let you upload 10 minutes. So we did 10 videos. And those first few videos, one of them has 300,000 views, I think, at some point. It's very dated. The material is good, but you and I both are using much better setups and have a background and all that. So I did that with my friend, but I barely did. I always wanted to do something on YouTube, but it was always just too much to try to get into it. And then I started to play around in 2019 with doing the type of videos that you and I do. And then I would get busy. I'd go on tour, or I'd be out of town or playing. And then when 2020 hit, all of a sudden I had a lot more time and nothing to do. So I got in the rhythm of doing one video a week. And I've been able to do that ever since, I think, April 2020. And I got more comfortable with the tools, and I'll sit down and record 2 or 3 video ideas at once and edit them. And so I've figured out how to work it into my life, and it's a lot of fun because with YouTube, as you know, and maybe your audience doesn't know all the steps that go into it. You are the screenwriter. You are the poster designer for your thumbnail. You are the set designer. You are the actor. You are the special effects editor. You are the publicist. You do so much. And that's true also for podcasting, but it's much less because my podcast is audio only. So that's it. YouTube is, I think that's why I was scared of it. but it's also a lot of fun. And I feel like the more I put into it, the more impact the videos have and the more it resonates, and you can be very creative with it. And so it's been a lot of fun for me. And yeah, for the last just coming up on 5 years, I've put out basically a video every week. And I have, I think I can keep doing that for quite some time. That's my plan.
How do you manage? Because you said you had a routine, and now with the podcast and videos and orchestra and our lives, like because I think you made some videos like myself about double bass technique or about some music, an example, but you are also inviting people to play together or to speak about something, some approach or some technique. I think personally that the videos you invite someone are the easiest to plan. It's that the same for you?
Oh, yes, that's how I think about it too, because we're just having a conversation. The content creates itself just because we would be doing this over a cup of coffee anyway. And so that's what I love about the podcast is it's something I would be doing with my time anyway. I might not be doing what I'm doing with my solo YouTube videos if it wasn't for YouTube. But that's and I agree that can take that and you can spend all of your time making a YouTube video. It can be a full-time job making one video a week. You could spend 40, 50 hours, and I have. So yeah, as playing and the in-person other things I do came back, I've started to be very careful with my time and make sure that I'm always if at all possible 2 weeks ahead. So if I disappeared from Earth today, nobody would know for 2 weeks because I have 2 weeks of podcasts and 2 weeks of YouTube videos. And I just look ahead at my schedule because there are times when if I'm playing here with the San Francisco Symphony, I have no time for anything except that. But this week I have more time. So I was out of town, but I came back on Monday and I got footage onto the computer. And Tuesday I edited YouTube all day, and that's all I did. And yesterday was Wednesday, and I edited the podcast, and that's all I did. And now I'm seeing some concerts the next few nights, but it's okay because I'm 2 weeks ahead. And I just make sure that I look at my schedule and make sure that there's that. And things always pop up. Maybe something happens, or you get called last minute. So I'm always trying to make sure that I'm not frantically trying to do something at the last minute because I like podcasting and I like YouTube and I like everything else I do, and I want to keep that balance. Otherwise, I don't like anything because I'm too busy. But yeah, it's the podcast doesn't take as much time as YouTube. And I find that if I sit down in one day and if I'm going to chat for one person for the podcast, I'll try to schedule maybe two more and have one day be just talking for the podcast. And then I do the same thing with YouTube. And then I'm 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead on both of them. And I've only used parts of 2 days. If I try to do a little bit every day, it's too much. Practicing double bass a little bit every day, that's great.
Yes.
But if I'm going to get out my and I don't have a studio. I used to have a room where I could leave everything set up. We live in San Francisco where everybody lives very small. So this room is also where we eat and we watch TV, and my wife doesn't want to see all these cameras and lights and microphones set up. So if I'm going to get all my gear out, I want it to be worth it.
If you had every day something about YouTube and you are listening or seeing TV, as you said, or eating breakfast, and you are seeing the cameras and the lights, and you are always thinking about it, that is not it's not good. You have like it's always in your head. It's good when the double bass is always in your head, but not this work of editing and thinking about. I know you have double bass online course, and how do you start to think about it? It was like your idea, or someone said you
Well, I have a great story to tell you about that. I will try to be brief, but I thought about doing an online course starting in 2017, and I thought, oh, maybe I'll make an online course for how to market yourself or something like that. And I created one, and nobody was that interested. So I thought, oh, I should have done a double bass course. So I didn't do anything for a while, and then. This this story hopefully will translate well, but there was a company here in the United States called Musicians Toolkit, and they hired me to be their orchestra, like their bowed stringed instrument content manager. So violin, viola, cello, bass, all these different people were making courses, and they asked me to make a double bass course. So I planned it out, and I went to their headquarters in Utah, one of the states here, and I filmed for 2 days. And I was amazed at how hard it was because I've been teaching for decades, but it's very different talking to this camera. And so I had all these ideas of how to present something, and then it felt a little awkward getting it out. But I thought, well, this is okay. I did it. I'm glad this company will put it out. But you will never see this course online because this company, the FBI, the federal government, Federal Bureau of Investigation, they raided this company because the company was involved in some illegal activities. They were defrauding investors of money, and the person that ran the company went to jail, and it was something like $250 million that they had defrauded, and they owned many companies. Most of it was from like a rare coin business. But the FBI took the hard drives with my bass course, and I never saw it. That's a true story. It's crazy. But it was a blessing in disguise, though, because I wasn't that happy with how the course went. I thought it was okay, but but you put all this work into a course, and it's hard to do it over. But the federal government seized my course. So my friend Jeff Chalmers, who runs discoverdoublebase.com, a wonderful site, he had approached me and he had asked, "Do you want to do a bass course?" And I said, "Jeff, I would love to, but I just did a bass course." And then the federal government seized it, and I said, "Hey, Jeff, how about we do that bass course?" And it was great because I was able to take all of my notes and my experience doing the first one and do a better job, or I thought it was a better job for Jeff Chalmers. So I went over to the United Kingdom. And I filmed two courses. I filmed a beginner course and an intermediate to advanced course. And then I came over 2 summers ago and filmed a music theory and sight reading course. And we've added to that. So I have 3 courses through Discover Double Bass. And I love hearing from people who are connecting with that. And I would encourage anybody to check out an online course. Certainly check out your course. Hopefully your audience is doing that because it's really cool as a teacher to really think about how to present a certain topic and lay it down exactly the way you think would connect with people. So people from all over the world have used my course to teach them basic concepts of the bass, and I'll get emails about it, and it's just so interesting. And I don't think that ever replaces the in-person teaching, but it's like an enhancement. And then if people do come and take a lesson with their in-person teacher, it's like they've had this whole experience, and then you get this. It's great for the student and great for the teacher because if with an online course, you or I, we're not repeating the same thing over and over to every single student. If they take the course, they've gotten the progression. And then any additional lessons are like bonus on top of that. So I'm a big fan of online courses. I have gone through probably 12 or 15, mostly in music, but in even video editing. And I think it's a really useful way to stop, rewind. You can have comments depending on the platform. And it's a really cool, it's something that I didn't have when I was studying bass. And I think it's a really great way to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And the story is amazing. It's
Yeah.
FBI. Yeah. Um, I hope that someone in FBI learned double bass. And
Maybe.
and you are right. So I buy it also online courses to learn how to edit videos or to put the videos on YouTube. And it's good to have some um, like way or a progression, because if you are trying to learn alone, that is something I think USA in Brazil is like alike, because it's a huge country. But I don't think the opportunity to study double bass is the same. I think we talked about at the podcast with you, because here in Brazil is like common when someone wants to learn double bass needs to drive like 3 hours or 2 hours with a car or more. And I think the online course that they helped a lot at all if you are trying to see if the double bass is the right instrument for you, because a lot of people here play the electric bass, and they play at the church or at the school, and you doesn't know if it's for you or if you are spending a lot of money and time. So this course, like your course and my, I think is like the entrance for the double bass world.
It's such a great way to learn. And yeah, I when I was before college, I grew up in a smaller town, and my nearest big city with bass teachers. I had a bass teacher in my small town, but the famous bass teacher was about 3.5 hour drive each way. So I could only do that every once in a while. And I think about other things in my life that I've learned online. Like I do a lot with these cameras, and I got it, and that's all learned online. But then when you do get a chance, you learn these skills, and then when you do get a chance to meet other bass players or other people in that are working on this, it's really cool. The company Adobe makes Photoshop and all these products. They had an event about 2 months ago here in San Francisco, and I thought, oh, how cool! I'm going to go. So I went, and I was talking to all. I never get to chat with people about cameras, and I was meeting all these people that's what they do. And I think there's an equivalent with bass. If you learn, and and it's amazing how you can study on your own these days. But you will get a chance to be around other bass players, and then that's just that it's just so exciting to take that learning you've done on your own and connect with other people who are passionate about it.
Yeah, absolutely. You see difference. We see difference about the presence and online courses. How do you manage that when you are trying to record some videos from YouTube or for or the course?
Yeah, the course is interesting because it's very much you're trying to think about the first lesson, and then the second lesson, and the third and the fourth. And YouTube is a little more like spinning a wheel for me. And we'll talk about spiccato this week, or we'll talk about vibrato, or we'll talk about something different. So YouTube is a little more whatever my attention's everywhere. So and that's okay. But I find that for both doing a course and then also for YouTube, the more I can organize my thoughts before I film, the better. Because I can film a video about vibrato, but if I haven't thought about it, that video is going to be very long, and I'm going to go on all sorts of tangents, and it might not be as effective as if I just sat down and spent 10 minutes thinking about it. I think it's very similar to bass practice. I can just pick up my bass and start playing, but if I just take a few minutes and think, okay, what do I want to do today? That time will be better spent. So, but I don't write every single word I say. That can feel a little stale. So I like to just get the ideas. I get a lot of ideas, and I have a big board of ideas in this piece of software I use. And then I'll go through, and when something seems interesting to me, I'll drag it into a different column, and I'll start to play around. And a lot of the time, people people will suggest ideas. Maybe I'm playing a gig and somebody will say, have you ever thought about that? I think, that's a great idea. So I put it on my idea board and it might be months before I get to it. And then also, I don't want to just I've done now the last 4 weeks, I've done 2 videos about spiccato on bass. I don't want to do any more spiccato videos for a while. And I know you've done similar videos, but I'm going to explore some other things for a little while. So I like to make sure that I keep some variety in what I do. That's just my approach. But then if I am sitting down to film a course, it's a lot of planning. It's a lot of thinking about how every little piece connects to the one after it.
Excellent, excellent. And I saw the videos, and you made like in slow camera,
Yes.
and that is something you cannot have in presence private lessons because we live here, we have not no slow camera. So when you plan the videos, are you planning also which piece you are playing or which example you are playing? Or no, that come from
I do plan. I try to plan as much as I can in terms of that. So I've thought through, and I even plan with. I like to challenge myself. So I hadn't done any slow motion video in a while, and now that we're back in our nice new place and I have my cameras, I thought let's try some of that. And sometimes I just want to try something, and I see if people like it, and then maybe I'll do more. And so I think that's useful. So I'm going to do some more of that. So I even wrote in that document 120 frames per second slow-mo cameras. And I even plan out, I'm going to stand right here, and I'm going to have my main camera here and my secondary camera here and my light. And then if I'm doing it all in one day, I'll even have like 11 o'clock in the morning set up for a cam shot, set up for special effects shot. And I even have these little action cameras. Like I have this 360-degree camera, and I play around. I've tried different things to capture with that. So I'm always trying to think about how to use the format in a way, just like you said, that you can't do that in a in-person lesson. I can't press a button and all of a sudden everything's really slow. So I think, and it's exciting as the technology develops to see what you can do. So yeah, I like to, and it's a little bit of a personal challenge to me. What can I do to keep myself interested? And what can I try that's just a little bit different so that I can keep, just like we want to grow as bass players, I want to grow as a content creator. And so I think of not every video, but every once in a while, is it as an opportunity to work on new skills on my end.
It's revigorating to speak about the videos with you because I never thought that video making is like double bass learning. Because I have a lot of patience with me when I play in double bass and structure. And I have like a small piece of paper. I write everything down. I have very structure to my study, but not to my double bass. Like here, the videos. It's like my camera is just one camera and I have two lights, but I set the camera and the lights every once a little different to try. And yeah, I'm trying now more, but I have to have more like structure. Thank you for
It's like upgrading I told myself when I hit 10,000 YouTube subscribers, I'd buy a better camera. So I bought this camera that I'm using right now. And then I said to myself, what would be better than one camera is 2 cameras. So I bought the same camera, but I use a different lens. And then my wife said, no more cameras, Jason. So but having the 2 cameras for me, and I do think of it as similar to being a musician, because what does it mean to be a good double bass player? Well, that actually is a whole collection. It's like, what does it mean to be a good football player? Well, it means you're good at running, you're good at kicking, you're good at teamwork, and I think it's similar for bass. You're good at paying attention, you're good at some discipline, rehearsal. And I think there's a similar thing in anything you do. I get hired a few times a year to go be a bass journalist, I'll call it. And we have an event here in San Francisco coming up, and I was just at the Pittsburgh Double Bass Symposium, and I'm getting video and I'm getting photos and I'm writing about it. And I am an amateur photographer and an amateur video maker, but I know more than some people. So I'm learning. And I realized about a year ago, I came back from this Pittsburgh event and I said, my photos don't look that good. And I realized, Jason, it's because you never practice. The only time I ever take photos is at the events. So I have started I don't do it all the time, but about once a month, I put my camera in my backpack and I have one day and I just go around and I wander and I take shots of everything. And I get into my Lightroom, what I use to edit. And just that little bit of practice, I came back and I was just editing photos from this event this morning and they look better, because I was doing a little practice. And it's whether it's learning a language or learning double bass or getting better at cameras and YouTube, just put it working. I like to call it working like a professional, just sitting down and working on your craft, even if you don't feel like it. I'm trying to just get a little bit better each day with whether it's what we're doing right here or what we're doing when we're practicing our double bass.
Yeah. E aí, tá gostando desse vídeo? Então não se esquece de clicar em curtir e de compartilhar ele com alguém. Você também pode se inscrever aqui no canal e ativar o sininho. Assim, quando eu postar vídeos novos aqui, o YouTube vai te avisar. Someone asked me, because I wrote in my Instagram that I will talk to you, and someone asked if I could ask you, if other musicians or other performer or other double bassists, if they like have some kind of turn up their nose at you for being a content producer.
Yeah, it can happen, and it's very interesting. And you and I are both doing this work, going out there, and it's beautiful to be able to interact with people that watch your videos. And that's one of the cool things about YouTube. I've done podcasting for so long, but it's very hard to comment on a podcast. You have to find email them. Most of the time people are driving or washing the dishes. And so with podcasting, you sort of send it out and there it goes. But with YouTube, you can get into conversations and that's great. But it's also it can be a little interesting because I have these videos going back 5 years now, and someone will put a comment on a video from 5 years ago, and I don't even remember the video. I probably wouldn't even like it anymore, and so it's interesting once you start doing what we're doing, I think you gain a whole new respect for people who put themselves out there like that, because it's harder than you might think, and you have to have a little bit of a thicker skin, and people will leave all kinds of comments. Somebody left me a comment on a video I did in 2017. So I threw a couple videos together over the years, and they said, this looks like some bad video that my high school science teacher would make. And I was like, that's a very specific comment. And I usually don't pay attention, if it's a weird, but then I went and I watched that video and I thought, they're right. It is a video that a bad high school, and so I was actually kind of felt good about myself, like I'd gotten much better. So I think it's just like podcasting, putting yourself out there and talking about topics. It's only going to help you become a clearer communicator and teach a better lesson, or just have a better conversation. And I wouldn't worry about if people think it's turn up their noses or not. I think there's not enough time in life to worry about that.
So Jason, thank you so much for talking with me. It was really a pleasure to talk about double bass and YouTube.
let me just thank you for the work you're doing. And I'm honored to be a guest. And I just think I applaud what you're doing online. And I love that our mutual friend and colleague Shimon Marciniak connected the two of us. And I'm like I said, I'm working on my Portuguese, so it's a work in progress, like my video editing. But yeah, feel free, folks listening, feel free to reach out to me on YouTube or wherever you like to connect with people. I'd love to hear from you.
Muito obrigado ao Jason pela conversa. Se você gostou desse vídeo aqui, eu acho que você também vai gostar de um outro vídeo aqui do canal, que eu converso com o Shimon Marciniak, o meu ex-professor, sobre o CD Lost Beauty, que foi um CD que ele acabou de lançar em novembro de 2024. A gente conversa sobre o processo de ensaio e de gravação desse CD. Valeu, pessoal, e bons estudos! Se você quer aprender contrabaixo acústico sem sair de casa de forma sólida e estruturada, eu tenho um curso online que pode te guiar nessa jornada. Você vai aprender desde a postura correta, passando por exercícios de pizzicato e arco, até escalas, arpejos e repertório distribuídos em 88 aulas. Os conteúdos das aulas foram organizados de forma progressiva, assim você pode, no seu próprio tempo, desenvolver uma base sólida sem medo de gerar vícios. Quer saber mais? Clica no link que está na descrição desse vídeo.